Alright, so we were talking about all these unsaturated fats. Okay, now once again, unsaturated fats are fats that has a double bond in the middle. Okay, so unsaturated fats, because it has got a double bond in the middle that creates a kink in the molecule, or a twist in this molecule, and then makes the molecule, the distance between adjacent fat molecule wider. So that's why unsaturated fats are usually liquid at room temperature, less dense. Okay, and they are definitely better for you. Okay, so within unsaturated fats there are multiple different forms too. Okay, but most of them are actually pretty good. Okay, so if you get a mixture of both animal and plants unsaturated fats, okay, so you get a mixture of vegetable oils, peanuts, okay, so as well as avocados, olives, okay, they contain high level of monounsaturated fats, as well as the polyunsaturated fats from omega-3 in fish, okay, so that would actually be really good for you, okay, so all right, so now let's talk about trans fat. Trans fat, you might have heard of this term, okay, so now there is, in the last few years, there has been a lot of efforts to try to reduce the amount of trans fat in food. Okay, so as well as some cities like New York City have actually banned trans fat outright. Okay, so they've actually banned the use of trans fat. Now, trans fats was actually only invented in the mid 70s. Okay, so they actually come from partial hydrogenation of unsaturated fats. Okay, so it is almost entirely artificial, because naturally synthesized unsaturated fats are not trans fat. Okay, so when people first made trans fat, they thought it's great, okay, because it comes from plants. Okay, they thought it's not going to do much harm to the body, but in fact it actually cause more problems. Okay, than it's actually worse than saturated fats. So let's see what that is. Okay, so trans fat is formed when you do partial hydrogenation. Now this is the molecule of a natural unsaturated fat. It's also called cis unsaturated fat, because in a natural configuration, animals and plants synthesize unsaturated fats in the cis configuration, which gives the molecule a twist. Now, but in partial hydrogenation, the molecule is straightened out, it becomes saturated, but some of the double bond reformed. Right, so when the double bond reform, it actually can reform in a trans configuration. And so it actually becomes, there's a double bond in the middle, you can see here, but the molecules remain straight. Okay, so trans fat is a type of fat that is actually still unsaturated. Okay, I'll probably ask you a question, is trans fat saturated or unsaturated? The answer is trans fat is unsaturated. Okay, but the molecule is straight. Okay, so this is the difference between artificially made unsaturated fats, these trans fats, okay, formed in the process of partial hydrogenation, versus naturally synthesized unsaturated fat, which has a twist in the molecule. Okay, trans fat is unnatural, and the body does not have the correct enzymes to break it down. It stays in your body 10 times longer than saturated fat. That increases the chance of the fat molecule depositing in your blood vessels that can trigger atherosclerosis, blockage, and heart attacks. Okay, so trans fat are actually the worst culprit for associating with heart attack, worse than saturated fats. Okay, so this is actually something that you need to pay attention to. Okay, now in recent years there has been a lot of effort to ban trans fat. Okay, so in New York City, I think Maryland actually passed a law to try to phase out trans fat. California too is trying to completely phase out trans fat. Okay, so a lot of food actually do contain trans fat. Okay, so even when food that says that has 0 gram trans fat, okay, now if you break down the nutritional label, they always tell you, okay, 8 grams of saturated fat, unsaturated 2.5 grams. Okay, however, if you read the ingredients, it says 0 gram trans fat here. Okay, so if you read the ingredient, this contains partially hydrogenated soybean oil. That actually means it will contain some trans fat. Okay, now the thing is with the US, it's only in the US. So what happens is that if you have less than 0.5 grams per serving, all right, you can still legally put a 0 there, even when it's less than 0.5 grams. Okay, but the limit of trans fat you can consume is only 2 grams per day, okay, according to American Heart Association, okay? So if it contains 0.5 grams of trans fats, they can still legally put a 0 in it, okay? So using arithmetic tricks, okay? So if less than 0.5, they don't have to put up to a decimal place, okay? Not the case in Canada. In Canada, they are required to label 0.2 grams, 0.4 grams. They are required to label trans fat with 1 decimal place, okay? In the US, they can put a 0 there. The trick is you make the serving size very small, like 4 cookies, okay? I mean, Thin Mints, okay, the tiny little one. I mean, you can just open a package and finish the whole thing. But they make the serving size very small, okay? You see the servings per container is 9, okay? You want to open it and finish the whole thing, okay? So if there were 0.5 in 4 cookies, you finish all the 9 servings, you can actually end up getting 4.5 grams of trans fat, which is a lot higher than what you're supposed to eat, okay? So you need to pay attention to when you read the label, okay? But that's not the case in Canada. If you go to Canada, you read the label, it will tell you it has 0.3, 0.4 grams of trans fat per serving, okay? It will, in Canada, they're required to label that. Not in the US, okay? And they think consumers are dumb here, okay? They just don't watch, okay? And then you need to smarten yourself, okay? You need to be smart about it when you choose your food. When you look at the label, if it contains partially hydrogenated vegetable oils, these are the words that means it contains trans fat, okay? So, all right, so so that is the trans fat. Okay, now let's talk about other fats that are, there are different types of lipids, okay? So fat is usually the triglycerides that we were talking about, but there are other forms of lipids, okay? Lipid is more the whole, the family terms that includes cholesterol, waxes, and fats. And we'll talk about other types of lipids now, and then phospholipids, we will discuss this in a little bit more detail in chapter 3 or 4 when we talk about the cell membrane, okay? So you probably remember in Bio 101-2, the phospholipid is used for making the cell membrane. It actually looks pretty much like a regular lipid, okay? It still has a glycerol, and but it has one chain of fatty acid, saturated fatty acid, one chain of unsaturated fatty acid. But in the third position, it's actually a phosphate group, okay? So the phosphate head, like a PO4 group, okay? The phosphate head makes it a charged group, and then that makes it a charged head. Now, if you look at a molecule, that actually makes it hydrophilic, okay? Remember we talked about in the chemistry review that anything that contains charges, water likes it, all right? So that is hydrophilic. But anything that is still hydrocarbon, okay, carbon, hydrogen, that's hydrophobic. So the phospholipid molecule is partially hydrophilic and partially hydrophobic. Right? So that constitutes our cell membrane. So when you put the cell membrane and the phospholipid in water, it actually spontaneously folds into this phospholipid bilayer with the head facing outside and with the tail facing each other. Or it can also fold into this micelle configuration with the phospholipid head facing the water outside and then the phospholipid tail facing inside. You actually don't need to put any energy to do that, okay? After you've made such a molecule, you put it into an aqueous environment, it spontaneously folds into this phospholipid bilayer configuration, okay? So you actually don't need to, because this is the most energetically favorable state, okay? So. All right, so this actually constitutes a cell membrane of most living cells, okay? So virtually all living cells will contain a functional cell membrane, okay? So which is the phospholipid bilayer. All right, so that's one of the materials inside. Let's talk about cholesterol, which is an integral part of the cell membrane, okay? So we've heard a lot about cholesterol, and cholesterol actually looks like this, okay? So which is a large hydrocarbon tail. It's got a couple benzene rings and a pentagon rings here, and then a long tail. And then with one single OH at the very end of the molecule, this is the cholesterol. All right, the single OH makes it very slightly hydrophilic, but the rest of the molecule is hydrophobic. It actually mixes with the cell membrane very well because it is hydrophobic, okay? The single OH, the very little bit of hydrophilic action at the head of the cholesterol molecule. Actually, that's why this molecule is drawn like this. So a little bit of OH actually faces, interacts with the phospholipid. And then the rest of the cholesterol molecule actually integrates with the cell membrane very well. Cholesterol is actually highly essential, right? So 20% of your cell membrane actually consists of cholesterol. Okay, so it is a highly essential nutrient, you got it, highly essential fat. Okay, your body does synthesize your cholesterol requirement, and so even when you don't eat any cholesterol, your body will make cholesterol for you. Okay, so cholesterol is highly essential, and so why does cholesterol get such a bad name if it is a highly essential component of your cell?
Good and bad cholesterol.
So good and bad cholesterol, okay, so which one is good, which one is bad?
HDL.
HDL is good or bad, good, and then
LDL.
LDL is bad, okay? Now, it actually has something to do with the way how they are transported in the blood, okay? So, even though cholesterol has highly essential functions, it's the way that they are transported in the blood that actually cause trouble, okay? This is what cholesterol looks like, okay? So, look at it. Cholesterol is actually also extremely essential for the body too, okay? It makes all kinds of hormones for you, okay? So, hydrocortisol, cortisol, aldosterone, this is a hormone made in the liver to control your water regulation, and then also all of the sex hormones, okay, such as testosterone and estrogen. These are all cholesterol-based hormones. So cholesterol is extremely essential. So now cholesterol is actually transported in the bloodstream with these little vesicles, okay, either in the form of HDL or LDL. Okay, so HDL stands for high density lipoprotein. LDL stands for low density lipoprotein. Now, because cholesterol is a hydrophobic substance, in order to transport it from one area of the body to another area of the body, your body actually packages into these little micelles. Okay, these are cell membrane, basically, just like the cell membrane that we were looking at, little small vesicles of cell membrane that just contains cholesterol inside. And so your body actually transports cholesterol from one place to another via these little micelles. Okay, so the two kinds that your body would make to transport them would be HDL and LDL. Now, HDL is the kind that actually it's not bad for you; it's actually good for you. But LDL is the kind that has the tendency to cling onto the walls of your arteries, and then triggered blockage and triggered atherosclerosis, can trigger your hardening of your artery, and can increase the chance of getting heart attacks. Okay, so this is why LDL is bad for you. Now, HDL is actually good for you because HDL actually can counteract that effect. Okay, HDL can actually reverse the effects of LDL. HDL can actually even lift off the LDL that is already deposited into your bloodstream. Okay, so so this is actually why cholesterol is bad for you. Cholesterol, once again, is a highly essential nutrient. Your body cannot be deficient in cholesterol. However, it's just the way that it's transported in your body that may cause problem. Okay, so when you have too much LDL, then the LDL has a tendency to cling onto the walls of your arteries, and then actually can cause blockage. All right, so that's the medical guideline for the cholesterol. So you should ideally have overall less than 200 total cholesterol, and then LDL figure should be less than 130. Now this was revised in 2015 from 140 to 130. Okay, so it's got a little bit more stringent. It used to be 140 until a few years ago, and then they revised it down to 130. Okay, so. And then HDL, this figure used to be 40, and then they revised it in 2015 to up to 50 now. Okay, so if you have 50 or higher, it's considered healthy. And then, but LDL cholesterol less than 130 is ideal. Okay, so this is the desirable range that you should strive to get. Okay, so and then it's borderline high now, even when you're above 200. Okay, so. Yeah, so this is the cholesterol figure. So you actually will get your, if you do your physical, or you do your blood work, or you do your lipid panel. How many of you have done that? Check your overall cholesterol. Okay, so how many of you are in the desirable range? All right, that's good. So that's good. And Yeah, so there are actually a lot of factors that affect what range you might be in. Okay, so genetic factor actually does play a big part. Some people are genetically predisposed to have a lot of LDL in their bloodstream. Okay, so it's just that that actually is more. There's certainly a big genetic component. Some people could be very thin, very eat very healthy, and they can still have high LDL in the cholesterol in their bloodstream. Okay, so in those cases, then you should definitely take cholesterol lowering medications such as the statin. Okay, so Lipitor and those kind of low cholesterol lowering medications. Right, so however, this also has a lot to do with diet too. Okay, so there is a lot of research showing that if you consume a lot of trans fat and saturated fats, okay, trans fat, unsaturated fats, that actually tends to raise your LDL level. If you consume a lot of unsaturated fats like olive oil and omega-3 and fish, that tends to increase your HDL level. All right, so if you consume unsaturated fat, actually increases your chance of getting increases your HDL. Saturated fats and trans fat increases your LDL level. Okay, so you actually want to raise the good one and reduce the bad one. Okay, so this is what you need to do. Okay, so there are things that you can do to reduce the bad thing too, like taking a lot of eating a lot of fiber, eating a lot of plant-based materials, so like complex like oatmeal and fiber that tend to reduce LDL. Okay, so if you have a balanced, healthy diet, most people actually don't need to take cholesterol medications. Okay, except in the USA. Okay, so Lipitor is actually the #1 selling drug in the US. Yeah.
How come like the desirable range is higher for LDL than HDL?
Well, what do you mean? This is
Like it says less than 130 for LDL, but HDL says 50.
No, HDL is a good one. You need more HDL. You want less LDL.
Like why did it say
One's not the total balance.
Which one are you talking
This is automatically a higher number.
about? No, you want
wanted
less
lower.
LDL. You want more HDL.
More.
HDL is good for you. You want more of the good one.
Yeah.
This number you can have 60, 70. Okay, one time I started checking, it was like I got up to like 75 at one point. Okay, so after I started taking fish oil, it actually dropped after a little while. Okay, but you can have even 60 and even 70. That's considered high. That's considered good if it's HDL. And then, but if it's LDL, anything more than 130 is actually not that desirable. You need to lower your LDL. Okay, so you can have you can sometimes have figures as high as 65, 70 for HDL. It's still okay. It's still good actually. That's a good cholesterol. All right, so this is what you need to remember about the cholesterol levels. Okay, so now in America, most doctors they won't hesitate to prescribe Lipitor. Okay, so your cholesterol is slightly high. They tell you need to get on Lipitor. Okay, so they tell you, okay, you need to take statin. You need to take medications. Okay, so that's very American. Okay, not in Europe. Okay, Europe is like most people would say.
We really do try to push diet first.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so you mean the Mediterranean diet? The American Heart Association also said the Mediterranean diet is the healthiest. Okay, with a lot of olive oil, a lot of fish, and less saturated fats, and then less butter, and then those are the that's actually much better for you. I mean, but in America, of course, they want you to take drugs. They want you to. I've even heard of that one time I was driving and listened to an NPR program, and there was a doctor talking about cholesterol and things like that. And then I remember a caller call in and asked like, should I go on Lipitor so that I can eat a donut every day?
I had a patient after open heart surgery. We were doing the discharge paperwork. He was like, so like, can I have pizza like twice a week now, or just like stuff like that?
Yeah.
They don't know about
After the bypass surgery?
After bypass surgery.
Okay, yeah. He still
wasn't
doesn't want to change.
sure
Okay.
whether it was just to reduce his pizza intake or.
Oh, okay, sure, yeah. Yeah, pizza contains a lot of trans fat too, because they put a lot of partially hydrogenated glazing stuff on the crust of the pizza. Okay, so yeah, pizza actually contains a lot of trans fat. Okay, so they don't want to tell you, but other people. And then yeah, particularly the fancy crust kind. Okay, it's actually trans fat. Okay, so I mean, if you eat the pizza and cut out the crust, actually a little bit better for you. But and then yeah, so you see people.